The night the Hell Angels gathered under the broken highway bridge, the air felt like it was holding its breath. Engines snarled like caged beasts, and the asphalt glowed with spilled fuel and danger. Among the roaring bikes and reckless cheers, Brick, known for winning races and breaking rules, never expected that tonight he'd gamble with something far heavier than cash. He won a worthless woman, or so the crowd called her, and the moment she stepped into the light barefoot, silent and trembling, the echo of his victory shattered into something he didn't understand. Brick had won races, fights, money, and respect, but he had never won a soul. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that change hearts, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. It truly helps the channel grow and keeps these stories alive. They said the woman was unwanted. They said she was trouble. They said she was nothing. But as Brick followed her quiet steps back to the worn-out farm she lived on, something inside him shifted. The sun had not yet risen, but her world already looked exhausted. The fence leaned in every direction except upright. The barn sagged from years of storms, and lilies, surprisingly beautiful and stubborn, grew defiantly along the gate, as if determined to remind the land a little grace still existed. Brick had expected a runaway, or someone with a shady past who might bite back. Instead, he found her kneeling by the earth at dawn, planting a fragile young tree, with hands that shook slightly with effort, but moved with remarkable tenderness. As he stood there, boots in the dirt, arms crossed, and unsure why he stayed, he noticed how carefully she placed the soil around the roots, as if the tree's survival depended on her alone. For a long moment, he simply watched, confused by the warmth in his chest he couldn't explain. Her name was Lena. She didn't speak much that first morning, just whispered to the newborn tree as though it could hear her. Brick felt out of place, a giant shadow in a world too gentle for him. Yet something drew him in. He had grown up among roar and rebellion, where only strength mattered, where softness was mocked and survival was loud. But here, on this forgotten patch of earth, Lena showed a different kind of strength, one he had never learned. Days turned into habits. Brick found himself returning to the farm, telling his brothers he needed to check something for the bike, but ending up repairing a fence post instead. Lena never asked for help, never complained, and never looked him in the eye long enough for him to read her. But there was heaviness in her silence, an invisible weight she carried everywhere. Each morning she planted something new, lilies, saplings, small flowers salvaged from dying fields. She was rebuilding a life out of roots and hope, but Brick knew hope didn't grow without a reason. He noticed the scars first. Thin, old, intentional. They told stories she never voiced. He saw them when she washed paint off her hands one evening, the paint she had used to brighten the barn's decaying walls. Brick didn't ask. He'd seen those kinds of scars before, on people who survived storms no one else knew existed. The real truth found him unexpectedly. Inside the old barn, beneath a heap of dusty cloth, he discovered a wooden box filled with papers, drawings, and certificates. Lena had once been an award-winning painter, recognized far beyond this rural land. She had traveled, taught, inspired. But there were also medical reports. Her husband's psychiatric evaluations, the restraining orders, the missed court appearances. Her husband had hurt her in ways far deeper than bruises. He had stolen her confidence, silenced her art, and when he disappeared after his last attack, he left her with debts, threats, and a reputation ruined by lies he spread. She hadn't run away from her life. Her life had run over her. Brick stood there, breath unsteady, as the truth settled like storm clouds. The town hadn't called her worthless because of who she was. They called her worthless because they didn't know her story, and because it was easier to judge someone quiet than to understand their silence. Everything changed the evening he found her crying by the half-planted field. The horizon glowed orange, and the lilies swayed in the calm wind. She tried to hide her face, but Brick, for once, didn't look away. He didn't touch her, didn't speak. He simply stood there, offering the one thing no one had ever given her: space without demands, presence without pressure. Slowly, Lena began to open up, not through words, but through actions. She left him small painted stones near the fence he fixed. She brought him water when he worked in the sun. She started humming while she planted, and Brick recognized the luxury of hearing her voice, even in fragments. She wasn't healing fast, healing never is, but she was healing honestly. Brick, for the first time in years, started changing too. The biker who once solved problems with fists learned to listen to the wind in a field of lilies. He learned that strength wasn't loud. Sometimes it was a woman kneeling in the dirt, planting a tree for a future she wasn't even sure she deserved. He began helping her rebuild, not because she needed him, but because he wanted to see her world whole again. One morning, after finishing repairs on the barn roof, Brick climbed down and saw Lena standing with a small canvas in her hands. She wasn't shaking. She wasn't hiding. She offered it to him like an act of trust he knew he wasn't worthy of. It was a painting, soft colors, the barn, the lilies, and a shadowy figure standing guard behind her. He realized then that she didn't paint him as the biker who won her, but as the man who stayed. Her hidden past didn't make her weak. It made her extraordinary. Brick felt speechless, something rare for him, because he understood he had not saved her. She had saved him. She had shown him what gentleness could build, what patience could mend, and what love looked like when it grew slowly, intentionally, like roots beneath the earth. If this story has touched your heart even a little, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support brings these emotional stories to life. Special request, comment below which part of the story moved you the most. In the end, Brick and Lena stood side by side in the field where everything had begun. The young tree she planted on the morning they met had already sprouted new leaves, vibrant, alive, reaching toward the sky. And just like that little tree, their story was no longer one born from a street race or a cruel bet, but from quiet courage, unexpected kindness, and the belief that no human soul is ever worthless when someone finally sees their worth.